Well, hey team, thanks so much for joining me. Thanks for making the time. Thanks so much for tuning in. I always appreciate your company and your dedication to this podcast. This week, part 2 of my episode with Nicole Pedersen-McKinnon. Now, if you haven't listened to episode 1 of this, make sure you head back and you get it a good listen, because we talk all things money, finances, getting ready for baby, maternity leave, superannuation, all those sorts of things that are really important that you plan out and you start thinking about pretty early before baby comes along and when baby has arrived as well. You just do not need the stress of money ruining the first year with your baby, or that really, really intense time where you have so many other things to think about. So I had a really good chat to Nicole about all things money. Half of that chat is, of course, in the last episode, but right now we're going to delve into part 2 of our chat.
Superannuation, Nicole. This is something that I think, especially for mums, of course, being the majority of the time, the one that's taking a good chunk of time off work, how can this be impacted? And do you have any tips on kind of keeping on top of this?
So this is the massive thing. Like, you've got this kind of survival mode where you're actually, it's game on. You're on that maternity, paternity leave, and you're just trying to financially get through to the other side while you're enjoying the actual family time as much as possible. But in the background, that is then baking in a financial disadvantage for the person who is staying home. And that's really important to recognize on that bigger financial picture level. But there are ways of fixing this, right? So if we talk about women, often still taking the leave to raise the kids. So there's a couple of things that happen. Superannuation is designed by men, right? And it's an earnings-based system. So still, for some reason, there is this earnings gap where women earn less, right? So superannuation is based on how much you earn. Women earn less over a lifetime. This is, perpetual. And then we go and live longer, typically. So we need a smaller pot to last longer. If we then take a career break to work even harder for no pay for raising children, then that makes that even worse. So it is said that even just contributing 2% extra in all those periods where you're not on maternity leave, right? So 2% extra by salary sacrifice. So that doesn't even cost you 2% because salary sacrifice is before tax. It's going to be a lot cheaper than that. But it said that can actually make up for the longevity side of superannuation. There's some actuaries who actually applied to the Human Rights Commission to enshrine that for their female workers. Now, that sounds discriminatory, but actually when you do the numbers, because women typically live longer, then it's not discriminatory at all. It actually levels the playing field. And it does certainly help with any maternity leave breaks as well. Then there's a couple of ways you can work the system. There's a couple of opportunities that families can use to redress that shortfall and stop that disadvantage being baked in. One is the co-contribution scheme. So if someone is still working in any capacity and earning in any capacity, if they put in $1,000 after tax and they earn less than, the number is right here, $62,488 in the year, it's probably pretty easy to earn less than that when you're on maternity leave, you will get a free $500 into your super fund from the government. Now, you can do that every year that you are on leave or earning less than that, about $65,000, right? And that helps a lot. Then there's a spouse contributions. If your spouse puts in $3,000 after tax, which is a lot, right? Provided you're earning less than $40,000, you do not have to be working at all. The family, or your spouse, but the family, right, will get a $540 tax offset. Now, that's a discount off your tax. So that's actually a really powerful thing. That saves the family a lot of money. And of course, that $3,000 is then going into the super fund of the person who's not working, right? Who's raising kids and working harder for no pay, and then just boosts them up again each and every year.
Amazing. I love those really practical tips because I actually remember the co-contribution strategy. I only found it out after Leo. I had missed the boat and I thought, oh my gosh, I thought $500 I just completely missed out on. So I was very on that for the Hugo this time around. So again, it's like equipping yourself with this information because I think it's really easy, and I don't want to bring down the conversation, but I think it's really easy for us women to think, oh, it's fine because, you know, we're a team and if he's got it in his super, it's mine. But realistically, I'm not trying to put a black, you know, shadow here, but people split up, people, you know, things don't work out. And I think it's important to make sure you're both setting yourselves up individually as well for that, you know, that financial stability behind you,
And you're
rather
getting your
than
free money by doing
yeah.
this. You know, as a family, you're getting free money, which you otherwise wouldn't get. Also, from a tax perspective, like it's better to have more equal funds rather than one that's up here and one that's down here. So there's actual smart financial reasons, not just, ooh, it's, you know, it's an insurance policy
Yeah.
because a man's not a plan,
Yeah.
which they are not, but there's actually family, like logistical, smart strategy reasons to do it as well.
Amazing. Nicole, did you ever feel, I know a lot of mums that I speak to, you know, we can put these plans in place and this really helps with that. But I think it's really important to recognize, I certainly felt like this, and you're a hard worker. You're like me, you like to be a busy bee. You know, we love our work as well, which is a
Love
big
our
part
side
of it.
projects.
Yeah. Just add another one to it.
Yeah.
It can feel like you're taking a step back as a mum, and, you know, it can feel like, when you're off work, not just that, you know, you're not part of it and you're not there in the office, but it's also, you know, you feel like you're not the financial contributor anymore. And it feels sometimes a little bit daunting. And as much as your partner can, you know, reassure you and say, it's fine, we've got this plan in place, and of course I'm supporting, whatever it may be. I think I just want to make sure that we recognize that those feelings are really real. Feeling like you're not contributing is tough one to get your head around.
There's so much identity for us now that's, you know, tied up in what we do, not particularly who we are, but what we do outside the house. And it's important to recognize this. I mean, this goes all the way through to, you know, retirement and how people adjust to that as well. And there's this really big movement now. It's not retire, it's rewire. And people aren't sort of doing that hard stop. And I think, you know, if there's any way of continuing just to keep in the game, just that little bit of a way that's still allowing yourself to have the amount of self-care that you need, because it's a pretty rough time. You know, it's a pretty big time. The delirium is real. But if there's a way, if not of keeping, you know, your foot in the door at work, at least keeping the social connections and, you know, the kind of influence that you have there and the people keeping you front of mind. I think those sort of things are really important, because that's the things that might kind of get you through those very long nights and what can be otherwise quite a lonely time.
Yeah, very isolating. And also just keeping that communication going, I think, with your partner is really important. I think it's okay to, you know, just admit, like, gosh, I'm just not feeling it today. I feel like, you know, you might have seen, I don't know, maybe a colleague post something on LinkedIn and you felt like you were missing out, or whatever it may be, or you felt like you saw a bill and you thought, oh, you know, I didn't get any pay come in this week, or whatever it may be. I think just keeping that communication going and being really honest about that really helps as well.
Absolutely. And those feelings are entirely valid, because, you know, most of us are not bred for this anymore. This, you know, this baby stuff happens and it's this flip overnight, and it can be very hard to adjust your mind to. So retaining as much as you can of your old self without like making, you know, getting yourself so beaten down by the workload and everything that you've got going on is probably going to help you with those feelings.
100%. Nicole, something that I missed on our, you know, pre-recording question list, which I hope it's okay I'm bringing in now. And I don't know how I missed it, because it is such a big financial part of having a baby and being, you know, financially savvy, is actually care. So daycare, that sort of thing. I just wanted to touch on it really quickly with you. This is another point at which I think budgeting really helps. Is it worth having these conversations really early, even before the baby comes, of, you know, what does care look like for us when I go back to work? Obviously looking at all your potential options. You've got daycare, you've got family and friends to lean on, you know, having those conversations. Do you have any tips in this area?
Look, I think it is something that it's worth considering, because that's what's going to facilitate you going back to work and getting your earnings back up again. at least the cost of that care has come down due to various government initiatives and recognition that, productivity in the economy is all about getting parents back to work and allowing, families to move forward in a way that's more financially sustainable as well. So there's some good news on that. It's really about those kind of waiting lists, depending on where you are, and what kind of care you want. You might want to be making those decisions super early and getting your child on the waiting list so that you do have the options. Because if you're working here, but your daycare is over here, then that again adds a lot of pressure onto a family, a lot of time, a lot of, practical problems with getting your child mobilized and in transport and to that and then back to work in time. So it's worth considering that next step of how you phase back in to work and what then, sort of school looks like and how that goes for your family as well.
Yeah, and I'd say here, Nicole, the biggest thing that's helped me with this is because, of course, mums have to deal with a lot of mental load around this about like the logistical side of drop off and pick up and what day and where and how many days should I go back to and all that stuff. Planning and having a schedule, and whether that is a physical schedule to help you with things, and having really good with all of the options and the people around you. And that might be, first you have that chat with your partner. What does things look like? Then you perhaps look for care. Have the chat with the mother-in-law, have the chat with your mum, dad. Look at all your options, collate, come in and do a bit of a plan together. I think a lot of the time, sometimes because we're in this overwhelm of sleep and eat and milk and food, we can get 3, 4, 5 months into maternity leave and go, oh my gosh, I need to start thinking about this. And you go, okay, I'll just pop them in daycare. And you don't actually start to think, oh, how can I actually bring this bill down? Who can I actually lean on?
That's so valid, and it's well worth doing because often people really want to help. What I would say about that is to make sure that you keep that help, is to make sure that you really do value it. So, I've heard a lot of people who are retired who have even kind of stayed away and think because they don't feel like they're actually being appreciated by their adult kids in terms of the daycare that they're providing. So in terms of protecting that and keeping the value of that and keeping that helping your family, just be really grateful for it. Like don't, slow the car down at the front of the house and just roll the baby out and keep going. Just make sure you do build in the buffer in terms of that scheduling for the time to to say thanks and be grateful to the person who is actually helping you dramatically, because time is money. Their 100%. Time saves you money. So it's about recognizing that as well as part of this overall plan of how you're going to manage as a family.
I love that tip. I love it.
Hey, Mum, are you kind of really over reading those boring children's books to your baby, to your toddler, that say the same thing, that go through the same ABCs and the same 1, 2, 3s? Well, I've got something for you. I read a kid's book. It's called My Mummy Loves Fudge. And this book is not just for your kid. It is for you to enjoy as well. Now, it's about a mum who yells fudge around the house. I'm going to leave it to you to think of another word she wants to be yelling but just can't, a PG version of that word. Now, this is a really fun book that I know that you will love. It's also an amazing gift for a new mum if you have one on your mind. Make sure you head into the show notes for the link on where to buy it. Just search My Mummy Loves Fudge by Nicolina Caruve.
One other thing, Nicole, I really wanted to talk to you about, because I heard this story a couple of months ago. I saw it on the news somewhere where it was really interesting. I don't know if it came across your desk. It was a man, I believe he was in Victoria, and funnily enough, he had the same ethnic background as me. I'm Macedonian. My husband is Palestinian. We have a lot of family and friends around us. So he was saying this story about how when his daughter was born, they got a lot of money as gifts. And that's a very traditional thing, when uncles and aunties and cousins meet the baby, it's to the point at which in Macedonian tradition, you put like $50 notes in their onesie. It's a very fun, exciting time.
Lovely.
He put all of that money together, very savvy dad, and he's actually put down a 5% deposit on an apartment for his daughter. It was just like a 1-bedroom studio. This was about a year ago, because he was very financially savvy to think, oh my gosh, we've just had this influx of money. It came from her first birthday, her christening, and he's really put that to really good use. I didn't have that light bulb moment with my kids. I think we put their money into, various different things, paying for christenings and this and that, and some of it on the mortgage because, it's a baby living in the house. I wanted to ask you about how we could think about this money differently when it comes to gifts for our babies, even this early on when they're born.
Yeah. So, buying a house is, that is next level. And I think there's a lot of logistics in, a single asset like that and where the mortgage comes from, on top of your own mortgage, etc.
Yeah.
However, I would say that the most powerful asset that anybody has is time. A lot of people don't realize it. So a baby has the most powerful asset on their side, right?
Yeah.
If their parents or people around them take advantage of it for them. So the longer time, the more time you have, the less money you have to invest to grow a beautiful big nest egg. So therefore, if you start micro investing, even tiny bits, right? Micro bits for your child when they're born, then you are ensuring that they are going to have a really nice little buffer or deposit or whatever it is, little windfall that is going to help set them on their way when they're, say, 18 or 23 or 25 or whenever you deem that it's worth handing that money over. There's quite a few different ways you can do this. Like there are investment schemes and bonds that are specifically designed for kids and that mature at certain, milestones in their lives that have favorable tax treatment. Or there's micro investing apps, some of which allow you to have kind of sub accounts for kids as well. So there's a couple of these kind of apps. There's Raise and there's Sharesies. And what they will do is invest these micro amounts in the stock market in a diversified portfolio for you. And that's a fabulous way of setting your child up. You can also do roundups with that. So rather than say put in $30 a fortnight, you can also just round up your spending on that particular account to the next dollar every time you tap. And that then also goes into their account. It's just a really great way with very little pain to your pocket to making sure that you've got this sort of snowball of success happening in the background for your child. So we've been doing this since our kids were little, and you kind of forget about it. You automate it and you kind of forget about it because it's such a little amount of money that it just becomes part of the, the kind of finances and the ebb and flow, right? And we've just realized that we have $4,500 for both of our children just sitting there. And that wasn't even like a grand plan thing. That was just a little bit of, let's put in $30 a fortnight. Let's round up our spending. And now we've got the money to match. We wouldn't ever give it to them outright, but to match their savings so that they've got some pain in the game as well, but that we can supplement what they will have for perhaps their first car.
I love this. I love these tips. And of course, you've got your podcast, Minted Kids, which it really helps parents to teach their kids about money, which is a big part of what you're saying is, what do you do with this when they do turn 18 or whatever it may be? Yeah. And the thing that I love about this is, of course, there's that side to, setting your kids up early and giving that step up, with, a nice little pool of money that they can then, choose to do what they want to with. But for example, I thought about the fact that we've got a little bit of a pool going for our kids as well. And I thought, well, when it comes to the time and when, they come up to me and say, for example, they would like to buy a car or they need a car, that's helpful to us as well at that point at which in our life, perhaps, that would be a really big ticket purchase for us if we were just to take it on ourselves. It's like, wow, we've actually thought about this ahead of time, this big ticket item that we will need to buy. And we're not put out as much as we would have been if we didn't think about it back when they were zero,
Absolutely. Like it feeds straight into the concept of bill smoothing in a way, because your kids are going to need things, and whether or not you can help them out is a very family by family kind of situation. But you're going to be much more able to help them out if you've just had this little ticking away thing in the background that's not really been hurting you very much at all, but has resulted in this little bit of money that you can match them, Yeah,
I love it. Speaking of events, this is one last thing I want to ask you about. And again, social media plays into this, the influence of us having these extravagant birthday parties for babies and kids. And was this the pressure you had, Nicole? Because, I'm seeing things on my feed like baby's first tooth comes out and all of a sudden we have to have a party and there's like a balloon backdrop that looks to me like it cost $1,000.
And the cost of a tooth now, like the tooth fairy is making money hand over fist. The tooth fairy is paying money hand over fist, right?
Yeah. One, how do we, again, just block out the noise here, have our own strategy, have, our own values and importance to how we host these events, but also any budgeting tips when it comes to these bigger celebrations and things that come around?
Look, parents should dance to their own music when it comes to this. Just don't be influenced by the extravagant parties and ban the party bag, for goodness sake. Like, nobody needs this. Nobody needs the plastic crap. Nobody needs the lollies and the sugar rush and the sugar crash. Like, do other parents a favor and skip that and do your wallet a favor.
Yeah.
But, the parties don't need to be extravagant, particularly for little kids. They're not going to remember. The parties are for the parents. So, do something in the backyard with a sausage sizzle and everyone's going to enjoy it just as much.
Yeah, keep it simple, Sally. We went to a party just recently and it was really funny. They had a pass the parcel, which is an amazingly very budget-friendly game you can have at a party. But I don't know if you know this, Nicole, pass the parcel has changed now and every single wrapper has to have a present because one, we're avoiding tantrums, and two, we are this society where everyone gets a prize and nobody can be disappointed. And my husband and I had a bit of a laugh. We thought, man, like we had to learn the hard way. There was only one prize at the end there.
Right? Yeah, I know. Well, this is way up there with the I ran in a race ribbons, right?
Yes. Oh gosh.
Not good. Not teaching the resilience that, we have.
Yes, the missing out really built like character into me.
Right? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Exactly. Oh, thank you so much, Nicole. It's been such a pleasure talking about all these things, which I know for a lot of parents can be really daunting conversations to have. Money makes the world go round and it makes your world go round. And I do love following you.
Yeah, and when there's less of it, at that time, you don't want that to diminish your enjoyment of that time because it should be a beautiful, delicious delirium that isn't impacted by financial problems. It really should. And it's all just about a little bit of preparation.
Exactly. Well, of course, Nicole, you're the author of How to Get Mortgage Free Like Me. And amazingly, you are offering us a 40% discount code on that book, which is really crucial to setting yourself up to a really cruisy time once the baby comes along. So that's available at NicoleSmartMoney.com or an audiobook anywhere. I'm going to link all of that in the show notes, especially your Instagram, which I love to follow, and of course your podcast, Minted Kids. Thank you for making the time.
Absolute pleasure. And the discount code there, Nicolina, is Playbook. So if people just put in the Playbook discount code, they'll get that 40%.
Amazing. Thank you, Nicole.
Hey, thanks for taking the time to listen to the Baby Playbook. And I hope you've learned something, just even something that will make things a little bit easier in this crazy, crazy season of parenting and motherhood and fatherhood that we are in. Hey, quick favor, if the Baby Playbook has helped you even just that little, hit follow and leave a rating or review wherever you are listening. It genuinely helps more parents find the show and I read every single one of them. So thank you. I'll see you next week.